that's all quite unnecessary. Hello there and welcome to the channel, and in this video I want to start a new feature, which is my 5 pieces of terrible gardening advice that I've come across this month, which is of course July. Now we're going to discuss them. I'm going to tell you what's wrong, I'm going to tell you what you should do. If I can tell you where it come from and why people are doing it. I mean it's just shocking what's being said, and if you take on board these people's advice, because these are people in authority in some of these, then it could all go wrong. And you know who gets upset when these sort of things go wrong? I don't blame people for their mistakes, but I do ask they pay for them. I'm sorry that I am going to have to do this, but for my first piece of terrible advice, I'm going to have to put the national treasure Monty Dunn on the stand. Don't clap him. Not. You can do it another time, but not on this time. Oh, bless him. I came across an article in the legacy media where Monty Dunn says, July is now the time where you can start cutting back your lawns, because you probably would have grown spring flowering bulbs like he has done, and they would have finished dying back to feed the bulb, which means you'll get a good display next year. So he's advising that you do not mow your lawns any time from the beginning of the season up until right now. And I thought that can't be right, so I went and checked his own site where he lists his jobs for certain months, and sure enough, in July, don't cut your lawns until July. He's saying it is because it is good for the environment, it is good for habitat, it is good for pollinating insects. Let me counter that with a clear and concise argument. Oh, and scientific fact. Science. Okay, well, this is the first of 3 reasons why this is terrible advice. First of all, pollinating insects. Let's just be very clear that grass, when it produces its not its seed heads, but when what it has as flowers, these plants are wind pollinated. They do not produce nectar. They are not attracting pollinating insects. It is wind pollinated. If you have a field full of grass, there is literally no benefit to any beneficial pollinating insect anywhere, because it doesn't produce any nectar. It's not a thing. Stop thinking that it is. The only way it would be is because if you've got a load of weeds in your lawn, they might flower and they may have some pollen and nectar that the beneficial pollinating insects require. So let's not confuse your lawns with all the weeds that are in your lawn. Now, if you've got weeds in your lawn, well, that's down to you. But if you want to grow pollinating wild meadow flowers for the pollinating insects throughout the spring and summer, then get rid of your lawn and put in a wildflower meadow. Do it properly, otherwise you are just being lazy. So regarding long grass being a fantastic environment for creatures in your garden, well, let's discuss that, because one of the creatures that perhaps you would not like to have in your garden are ticks. Wonderful creatures. They love the long grass. The longer you leave it, the happier they are. Your pets can be covered in them, little biting, sucking all the blood out of them, passing on diseases, and people too, like you and me, we can also be bitten by ticks and get some lovely diseases like Lyme's disease and encephalitis. That's a strange word. So consider that when you're encouraging other insects into your garden, because not only will you have your beneficial insects, you will also have the ones that could kill you. Now, my third point is to do with the grass seeds themselves. You know what they are. They're little sticky, sharp, horrible little things that, if you've got pets such as dogs and cats, they love to stand on them, get infected paws. They sometimes I've heard they can even root into the skin of the animal. Now, I did pull up a load of images of the damage that these grass seed heads can do to your pets. And to be honest with you, if I stick this on this video, I'll probably get kicked off of the internet, so I'm not doing it. You can research that yourself. So there you go, there's 3 great reasons why mowing your lawns beginning in July. What kind of advice is that? Only a mentalist would think that's a good idea. Oh, don't forget to click like, because it supports our channel and costs absolutely nothing to do so. I love it when you click like. Come on, click, clickety, click, 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 click. Now, my next piece of terrible advice is to do with watering your tree ferns. Now, tree ferns are from Tasmania, part of the west coast of Australia, in regions that can have rainfall between 2 meters and 3 meters tall. That's an awful lot of rain. And because this is a plant that has evolved to take advantage of this heavy rainfall, it has this massive funnel shaped architecture with its foliage, and its trunk is effectively like a very, very fibrous water bottle. The whole being of this plant is to take in water and hold on to it as best as it can. Right, now this is the advice that someone almost shouted at me. It's unbelievable. Now, I was advised that if you want to grow a tree fern here in the UK, then you need to acclimatise it to our weather conditions. So you got to toughen it up so that it can survive. And that meant you don't water your tree ferns through the crown. So here in the UK, we receive around about just below a metre of rain throughout the year. So that's approximately half to a third of the amount of water that it would experience in its native habitat. Now, if you aren't watering it through the crown, the problem is that the crown is where your meristem is. It lives at the top of the trunk, and then the roots come down from the top through the trunk into the ground. It's not like all your other typical hardy garden plants where the roots are in the ground and then the top grows up. It's like a plant on a stick. So it does have roots. The roots will go down into the ground, nice thick massive fibrous roots, and yes, you can water it just at the base as you would do your regular plants, but really that is not what this plant requires to grow well. If you don't give it additional water through the crown, that crown is going to start shrinking up. Year on year, you're going to get a reduction in that canopy. Those fronds, you'll have less fronds, the fronds will be smaller. Over time, your plant will look like all those other plants that they have at Wisley, who have some bizarre kind of management techniques that really ends up killing them all off. You just have these trunks. You go down there today, if you can be bothered with the traffic at the moment, go there today, you will see a forest of trunks with no tops to them because they are dead. If you don't want to water your plants through the crown and give them the adequate amount of water that these need in order to grow healthily and productively, then you can do that. But when you see the prices of a decent sized tree fern, I mean, what are you talking about? £400, £500, at least around here. You're an idiot. It is terrible advice when it comes to growing tree ferns. Oh, and there is more bad advice when it comes to doing this, but we'll get into that near the appropriate time. Flip it, don't water your tree ferns through the crown. Oh, hold on a minute. If you're finding this video useful or even just mildly amusing, then don't forget to click the thumbs up, press on that subscription, and if you want to be notified of whenever we release a new video, then click on that notification bell. It helps us more than you know, and it allows us to do stupid visits like this in the future. Anyway, let's continue to find out what old Boiled Butt has to say. I've got bloody glasses back on. Too hot, too sunny. It's too lovely. Now, this third piece of terrible advice is to do with looking after your cacti. And who doesn't love an absolutely stunning, mature cacti succulent specimen? Now, if you are an experienced, award-winning cactus grower, like some of us, then you'll know what I'm going to say next. It is the worst advice when it comes to cactus. And who says it? Pretty much everybody. This is what they say. Oh yeah, cacti, I know all about them. They live in the desert. They like it really, really hot, and you don't ever have to water them, and that's all about cacti. I know that no one really speaks like that, but no. Ignore all of that. No. Look, I appreciate that many of these cacti species, almost all of them, are from Texas, Mexico, or that northern part of Central America. They do live in a kind of a desert scrubland, but it certainly isn't a desert like you get in the Sahara Desert. I mean, when's the last time you saw cacti growing out of the sand dunes down there? And let me just put it into context. Now, the Sahara Desert receives about 2 to 3 inches of rain per year, and if you're looking at Texas and Mexico, you'll be looking at anywhere between about 10 inches and 30 inches, depending on whereabouts you are on that landmass. So to think that these stunningly gorgeous plants, I mean, they are xerophytic, which means they have got many adaptations that allows them to survive in periods of drought, but that's periods of drought. That's not desert. It will still rain there. So when you're growing these at home, you will still have to water them. And to give you an approximate idea, over the growing period of the summer, you'd be watering these, say, once a week, and then over the winter period, you would water them, say, once a month, and then you re-water really once the top of the soil has dried off. They still, like all life, require some water in order to grow. Now, if you give them the minimum amount of water, it will survive. You know, it's just going to stay stunted. It's not going to do anything. But if you give it adequate of water to meet its needs, it will grow and it will bloom and it will be a lovely specimen. So not watering will kill it. As anything else, you'd still need to water your cacti. Don't have them sat in a saucer of water. Don't give them waterlogged conditions. Just treat them with respect. Give them the water they require. Never watering is just completely wrong. Now, this next piece of bad advice I remember being told growing up as a child, and that is to do with regards to your greenhouses, which is while I'm in the greenhouse. During the height of the summer, you leave your window vents and doors open during the day, and then you shut them up at night to keep the heat in. Well, it sounds good in principle, but in practice, there are some quite nasty risks with that. Now, firstly, I want to talk about ventilation, especially if you're growing crops like tomatoes and courgettes. Now, in the summer, they really become quite at risk from being attacked through fungal infections known as tomato blight, late blight, or potato blight, all of which is the same fungal infection, Phytophthora infestans. Now, one of the things you can do to mitigate an infection is to maintain excellent ventilation at all times. Now, if you're watering your plants, now some people will do it either in the morning or in the evening, and then you shut your doors and your vents, then you're going to get a massive increase in humidity, and that increases the risk of these fungal infections coming through. Because let's be honest with you, if you've got an infection of tomato blight, it'll be throughout all your plants in the greenhouse within a few days, and really by the end of the week, most of your crop would have special affected. Now, the other problem is heat in your greenhouse, especially if you've got your doors or windows closed and you have forgotten to open up your doors in the morning. To be honest with you, at the height of the summer, come about 10 o'clock in the morning, it's still going to be absolutely baking inside your greenhouse. Temperatures can rise from 30 degrees Celsius up to 40 degrees Celsius, even higher. The smaller the greenhouse you've got, the more concentrated that heat can become and be even higher. Now, plants, they can regulate their temperatures to a certain point, hovering to about 30-32 degrees Celsius. Once you start getting hotter than that, then it can't take in enough water to keep itself cool. It can't metabolize properly. It's the cells themselves will also start to break down the enzymes, and then they just start hitting 30-40 degrees. The cells start to just collapse. They can't cope with the heat. So heat just in itself is a really important thing that you will need to manage. So during the summer, during periods of drought, during our hotter temperatures, just leave your doors and windows alone, keep them open. I still know people who I go round, open all the vents and windows, go back the next day, someone has gone in there, shut them all up again, because that is the advice they were given. It is wrong. I accept it is absolutely fine during the early spring, during the end of autumn, but at the height of the summer, no. Now this is the last piece of terrible gardening advice, and it is an insidious piece of advice, and it is to do with root trimming. That is the practice of, whenever you're planting up a pot grown plant, is to cut off the bottom inch or two of the roots. Why would someone possibly do that? Well, I believe what the thinking is that, say for example, you have a healthy growing shrub, you prune it, and then you get a mass of invigorated growth. And I believe what people think is that they'll do the same to the roots. You cut an inch off the roots and you will produce a mass of invigorated root growth. Can I just say before we start, the only time we do root pruning is to restrict the growth of plants. So the general practice of that is to do with growing bonsais, which are grown to a restricted height, or plants such as you find in Versailles, where you're container growing these massive citrus trees and you don't want them too big. So each year they take them out, they root prune it, put it back in its lovely Versailles planter, and then backfill some fresh compost. So it's root pruning technically is to reduce and restrict the height of your plants. None of this invigorated growth idea in order to enhance the overall growth of your plants. No. And I'm seeing this come through on Gardener's World. I'm seeing it in magazines. I'm seeing it in hearing it on Gardener's Question Time. Root pruning, no. And I'll explain why. Now, before we start, I want you to think of a plant's root system as being something between its brain and its stomach, and that'll give you like a good start as to how to think about these. Now, I'm going to give you a basic botany description of your roots, which this is very generalized. Obviously there are plants out there which will have some differences in, but as a general thing, you have four kind of roots. You have your primary roots, which is your tap root, and that's there to secure its place in the ground and to feed other roots out from it. You have your, let's pull this out, this is a Monstera deliciosa. It's a climbing plant from Central America. Now, because this is growing upon the tap root, which I'm going to suggest is this thick bit of root here, it's not doing its job properly. It's not going down, it's just spinning around the compost within the pot. But you've got your primary root system here. Off of this primary root system, like I say, your tap root, you have your secondary roots, which are these thicker ones. And then off of these secondary roots, you get your tertiary roots, which are these smaller ones. You see these here? Now, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but off of the tertiary roots, you have your root hairs, which are tiny structures. Each one of these is just a single plant cell, so very delicate. And it's these single cells that take in the nutrients and take in the water. It's not all this other stuff. It's not your secondary, it's not your primary, it's not even the tertiary. It's the root hairs. So if you damage these root hairs, and like I say, it's just one cell, it will easily snap and it won't be able to take in any water or nutrition from that part of the root system. So it's a very small amount. I mean, look at it, you can just see it. I think you can just see it, but that is so important. But there's more. You see these at the end of the that's a tertiary root, the end of the tertiary root, the end of a secondary root. There is a specialist cap of root cells that protect another group of specialist cells called your meristemic cells, which are your forever young cells, and these are the ones that keep producing the new growth, which causes the root to continue its root. So it's a complicated piece of technology. You can't just start sticking your farmer's hands in there, pulling it all apart, and then think you're doing it a favour, because you're flipping not. So there you have it. Those are my 5 terrible pieces of gardening advice. What they are, who said them, where I know, and why they're wrong and what you should do otherwise. And I'd be interested to know what other pieces of terrible gardening advice you've been told. Put that in the comments. We would love to hear from you. I may actually steal those and put them in a video myself, but don't tell anybody. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Right, now, just before you go, if you want to see more content, more behind the scenes stuff, and images that I've taken of some weird freaky plants over the years, then you're in luck, because we've created an Instagram page. So you can find the link in our description, you can find the link on our main page, and if I'm clever enough I might be able to get a link somewhere up there. Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you want to see more YouTube stuff, then check out this video here. That's quite a good one. And if it doesn't float your boat, then another one right there. And enjoy these while I've still got the strength, imagination and aptitude to make them. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.